Hello, my name's Dave Bentley. I'm the General Manager of Information Systems responsible for our pan-European IT infrastructure. And I've been asked to say a few words today about our Unified Communications project here in Toyota. Before I get to the project, just a few words about the company itself. So Toyota Motor Europe is headquartered here in Brussels, but we're responsible for the IT for all of the Toyota locations across Europe. So that means we're present in about 35 or so countries. We've got offices, we've got 5 manufacturing locations, we've got various parts depots and logistics hubs. So in total there's around 80 Toyota locations across Europe. So you can see that communications is a big challenge, and getting people to work in the same way is very important to us. So our motivation for starting the Unified Communications project was basically to try to look at the way we communicate with each other and try and develop a more collaborative style of communicating across the company. Of course, we also aimed as well to save some money from the bottom line from our communication bill as well, but that was only in a sense a byproduct of what we were trying to achieve. So it was this sense of collaboration that was the most important to us. So in terms of products that we're trying to go with, we've decided to go with the Microsoft Lync platform. We're using Lync Voice, we're using messaging, and ultimately we want to introduce video, desktop video as well into that configuration. The current status is that we've been planning the project for some time now. We've got a pilot going on in our head office here in Brussels, and we're actually live in 2 relatively small locations in Poland and in the UK. So we're kind of still at the beginning of the rollout, but I think we at least understand the basic structure of the project and what we're going to do. So I've been asked to come with a few observations about the project, and I think the most important thing that we've learned in the last few months of doing this project is that to treat this as purely a technology project is actually quite a big mistake. I think even at the beginning we realised there was more to it than just installing software. But I think as time's gone on, we've begun to understand that literally getting the software stack installed on our servers and then implementing the clients is frankly the easy bit of this project. The really difficult bit is that unified communications, or at least to exploit unified communications properly and to get the real benefits, requires users to begin to behave differently, it requires changes in people's job style, and it requires people to think about their job in a different way, in a much more collaborative way, rather than every person preparing an Excel and then having periodic meetings to review them together. We now have the opportunity for people to actually collaborate on the construction of the documents. But that won't happen automatically. That only happens if people think in a different way and work in a different way. And I think part of the challenge that we've faced is that perhaps the system engineers who've been responsible for software integration projects in the past aren't necessarily the people who will handle that kind of change management aspect of the project as well, or at least they're not used to that kind of activity as part of their project. So I think that's been something that as the project's progressed we've had to understand and have to come to terms with. We've started to engage with Microsoft and with TamTam Consulting to give us some help in that. But a lot of it has got to come from inside our company. We've got to engage our own management, we've got to explain the reasons that we want to do these things and explain the benefits of working in a collaborative style which perhaps aren't absolutely natural to people. So that's where we are. We're beginning to integrate this change management into our project. It's not without some challenges. I guess if I had 2 or 3 sort of conclusions or tips that I'd want to pass on to people. One is understand at the beginning that we're embarking here on a change management project. It's not just a technical project. And when you're beginning to staff the project and when you begin to develop the timelines, think about that and consider that. The second thing I think is when you're considering your own staff, don't just put into the project the technical experts who can handle the software. Of course you need those, but you also need people who understand the business and understand how these tools are going to work in the business and how we can bring change to the business typically those skills are often found more in application teams than they are in the system engineering teams, and that needs to be thought about. And then I guess my third tip is to say, don't think you can necessarily do everything yourself. I think we've benefited from talking to people outside of our own company about how these things work, and I think that most organisations would probably benefit in a similar sort of a way. So, as I say, we've still got a long way to go. The next year will be interesting to see how we roll this out, but I think we've started on a journey that we believe is going to bring some benefits to us, some substantial benefits to us as a company, and hopefully we'll see that during the next 12 months.